Hi everyone, this is Pavel with a C++ exercise from the book Starting Out with C++ from control structures to objects. This is chapter 6, exercise 4, safest driving area. We are to write a program that determines which of 5 geographic regions within a major city, spell major, north, south, east, west, or central, had the fewest reported car accidents last year. It should have the following functions, which are called by main. The first one is going to return an integer, and it's gonna be called getNumAccidents. And into this function, we will pass the name of the region, and then ask the user for the number of car accidents reported in that region during last year, and we will validate the input, then returns it. And we should call this function once for each region. And secondly, we need a function that will be void, and this function will simply we will be passed the 5 accidents totals into it, and then we will compare these values and determine which one is the lowest. And as for data validation, we cannot accept the negative numbers for the number of accidents. Okay, so we need 2 functions. We already know that. The assignment says it clearly. The first one is going to return the number of accidents, and it's going to be in integers. So getNumAccidents, and it's going to accept a string, the name of the region, which is going to be a string. The second one is void, getLowest, I think that's what it was called, findLowest, whatever, it doesn't really matter. And we will be passing 5 integers, 1 for each region. Each of these integers will represent a number of accidents for each of the 5 regions. So integer, integer, and integer. All right, I don't want a hello world here. So I'm going to declare, I have the prototype, so now I can go and do those functions. Get number of accidents, string, I will call it region because that's the name of the region. And the second one will be void, find lowest, and it will get integer R1, region 1, integer R2, region 2, integer R3, R4, and integer R5. So these are the 5 regions that will be passing the values from main. Now we know we have 5 regions, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to loop 5 times. Instead of doing one at a time, I will go through them in a loop. So for integer I equals 0, I is less than 5, and of course I plus plus. And within the loop, I'm going to determine which region am I working on at the moment with each iteration. So to do that, I will do a switch statement, and I will accept I as the argument for it. And if I equals 0, in other words, if case 0, then I know that my region is going to be, which ones are they? North, south, east, west, and central. So I know that there is going to be a north. So over here, I first have to declare some variables. I'm going to be declaring them as integers because these will hold the number of accidents for each region. Accidents north, accidents south, I think. What was the order? North, south, east, west, south, accidents north, south, east, west, and accidents central. So this will hold the number of accidents for each region. So when I equals 0, I will be dealing with the north. So accidents north will equal how many numbers of accidents? Whatever this function get number of accidents returns for that particular region. So it will simply call the function and it will pass as a string the region name, and which will be just n for north. Oh, I can just spell it out, doesn't matter. And I will do break. And I will copy paste this because I will need for the other regions, case 1, case 2, case 3. So if this is case 1, this is case 2, and this is case 3. One more, which is case 4. Actually, this could be just a default, we don't need that. So it's gonna be default, and that's going to be the value for that. Okay, so our cases are here. What I need now, we have case 1. Case 1 will be south, so we will pass the south. Case 2, if I equals 2, it's going to be accident E, so that's east. Little x1 is west. And of course, by default, if neither of these is true, then it's going to be by default central. So our accident central will equal the get number of accidents, and we will pass central to it as a string for the name of the region. And I misspelled that. Okay, so again, we loop in 5 times. We go over here for the switch statement. If I equals 0, we are dealing with this accidents north. If it's 1, next iteration we will do with south. Next iteration we will count east, then west, and then central. And all the calculation will be done in one function, which is over here, get number of accidents. So I will declare accidents. I will initialize it to 0. And now I will simply ask the user to enter number of accidents. Please enter number of accidents for region. And the region name is being passed as an argument of a string, which is the region. All right, so and I will do. Now we can do it at the same line. Why not? Just a little space there. And we will accept it and pass it to our accidents. So our accidents now holds the number of accidents for one region, whatever region is being passed into this function. Now we have to validate to make sure that number is positive, that it's not a negative number. So if you watch any of my previous videos, you know I do it with a while loop. If accidents is less than 0, in other words, while this is if user doesn't enter negative number here, this is skipped automatically. If it's a negative number, that's invalid input, and it goes into the while loop. So our while loop will simply say, cout, please enter our number of accidents. Number of accidents must be a positive number. Please re-enter. Okay, and we will again, if the user enters the new value, we will pass it to our accidents. If the value is negative again, the loop comes over here. It checks if it's less than 0. If it is, it prompts the user again. Please enter the number of accidents. And when this is correct already, then it comes over here. This becomes false. The accidents is greater than 0 or equal. And then we will exit the loop. And we can now safely return the accidents, because now we know that the number will be a positive number. And whatever this number is now is being passed to our accident north and the first iteration of this loop. Then we go back to our second one. We come over here, case 1. We will pass south as the region, so we will enter the value of the number of accidents for south, perform the check again, and return the number of values that the user entered. And this time we will pass it to our accidents. Accident south. This is supposed to be S. That's what happens when you copy paste without thinking too much. And like that. So we have north, south, east, and west. Okay, so now after we have the values, we can do the comparison by simply calling our findLowest function. It doesn't return anything, so it's not going to be assigned. No variable will be assigned to any result from it. We'll simply output the result right there in that function. However, we need to pass the values of the accidents north, accidents south, accidents east, accidents east, accidents west, and accidents central. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the number of must match the number of arguments. Okay, so we have the values. Now I will have an integer lowest, which will hold the lowest value of any of these after we compare them. I initialize it to 0, and I will have a string region, which will hold the name of the region with the lowest accidents, the lowest number of accidents. So I come over here again, and the way to do it, normally we don't use array in this exercise yet. So the easiest way to do it is to simply compare each of these regions with each other. Now it's a little laboring, but it's only 5 of them. I mean, if it was 10 of them, you would see why this wouldn't be very efficient at all. I mean, it's already not very efficient, but it's fairly easy to understand. So it's a simple if statement. If R1 is less than R2 and R1 is less than R3 and R1 is less than R4 and R1 is less than R5. So R1 is less than R2, 3, 4, and 5. That means that it's the lowest because it's lower than any of them. Then we know that our lowest, I forgot the brackets. We know that our lowest will now simply, we will assign the value of R1 to our lowest. And we know R1 is the region 1, so we know that it's north, so we can assign region will simply be called north. Alright, and we'll do the same for the others. I will copy paste it and see, but it won't be, it will be else if, not if. And this time it's if R2 is less than R1 and R2 is less than R3 and R2 is less than R4 and also less than R5, then we know that R2 is the lowest, and that's region south. You can see that it's a region south. The next one will compare R3, we'll compare it with R1, we'll compare it with R2, and of course with R4 and R5. And if this is true, all of this, then our lowest will be R3, and the region is east. And of course we have the same with R4. This is so you can tell this would be very inconvenient, for if you had a little more numbers than that. But in this case, it will work. since we are not doing arrays just yet, this is the, I guess, easiest way. So this is this makes it west, north, south, east, and west. And if neither of this is true, then we know by default that it must be the last region, which is central. So our lowest will equal R5 and our region will equal central. So there you have it. Now all I have to do is simply output the output. The region with lowest accidents is, we will pass the value from the region, that will holds the name of the region, with string with total number. I will simply write total number of accidents in that region was, and I will pass whatever is the lowest, because the region and the lowest are paired, so they will match. Okay, so let's run it. Please enter number of accidents for region north, which is our first region, as you can see. So I'll enter 10. South will have, let's say, 5. East will have 4. West will have 5, for example, and central will have 9. And the region with lowest accidents is central, which is obviously not. It's supposed to be east. So I have probably some wondering. Oh, you know what? I think this is necessary because only one of them can be true. It's a if and else if. Because, you know, if this is true, doesn't mean that some of the other cannot be true as well. I mean, no, they cannot really be. But the way I had it, if you look at it, this is basically, it checks this, and if this is not true, it goes to else automatically. So no matter what I enter here, this is like a second, like a last check that it does, and it goes to if else statement, which usually would be else statement unless this is true. So, but this is all one if else if. So if I run it now, and I do 10, 8, 5, let's say 8 again, and 9, it correctly did the east. The region with lowest accidents is east, which is 5. Total number of accidents in that region was 5. Let me run it again with some different numbers. Let's do this one, the lowest. 5, 6, 5, 6, and it says you know, it's north with 4. Now I'll do the central as the lowest. So I'll do 10, 9, 9, 8, 5. So now the central is the lowest, and it determines it. I just wanted to make sure that the first and the last is as well, you know, it doesn't mess up something, but it doesn't. It seems to be working now. So the only problem was that I had it as if statement over here, which was the last thing that it checked. And if this one wasn't true, it always goes to else. And no matter what was assigned to lowest and region before, at the end, this was always assigned to it. Okay, so but now it's running fine. So to quickly recap, we have our prototype functions and our for loop, which loops 5 times because we have 5 regions, and based on the number of the loop, or in other words, on what the value of I, we will determine which region we are dealing with. We pass that region name into our getNumberOfAccidents function. We will prompt the user to enter the number of accidents, we will validate the number of accidents and return it. And when it's returned, it's assigned to one of these variables, depending on which region was passed into that function. At the end, we'll simply call the findLowest function. We will pass all the accidents for each region and compare them with if-else-if statements, and output the result, which depending on the comparison with whichever has the lowest, or we will assign the lowest, and we will assign the name of that region. It's like a pair. North has lowest number of accidents, or south has lowest number of accidents, and so forth. So I hope it helps you, and I will see you next time. Take care.